was growing up, my dad always had these awesome videos, VHSs. I'm showing my age again, and he had this one VHS. I can't remember if it came in like a Cologne box set or an Olympic box set, but it was two videos. And the videos were, one of the videos was The Thrill of Victory, and the other video was The Agony of Defeat. And so the Thrill of Victory video, of course, it just showed like people doing a lot of athletic things. That's why I couldn't remember for some of the Olympics, like hurdle jumping, the beam where you run up and vault off of it, the vault beam, and pole vaulting, so forth and so on, winning races, etc., etc. But man, that's not the one I watched. I watched that a few times. I remember watching over and over and over The Agony of Defeat. And the reason that I think I watched it over and over is because even back then, we don't live in a society where we broadcast the failures. Because, like, let's look at it like just logically, right? They were at the Olympics, so even them failing at the Olympics is more of a victory than the average person. But in a way, when I was younger, it was funny seeing them. They were like running into the beam, running into the I'm gonna find out what it's called, but it was the big thing you run up into and you like push yourself off and do flips. They were running straight into it and losing races and coming up short, etc., etc. So I just remember that video, and it just reminded me on today's theme, because even today, even as adults, even though we know better, we are constantly bombarded with people's successes, whether it be music sales, right? Whether it be sports accomplishments, political victories, financial victories, following, you know what I mean, monetization, YouTube views, YouTube likes. We're constantly bombarded with that. But the things that are not out there are like, I'll just use YouTube for example, like they don't bombard you with the dislikes or the negative comments or how many people didn't like your video or how many followers you may or may not have, right? We don't bombard you with, I'll use my man Kobe now. He let people in. Okay, so I'm not gonna use Kobe because that's a bad thing, because I'm a fan, so I've seen him shooting free throws, right, with a cast on in the Staples Center. But let's use Steph, right? They're not gonna show you him shooting like a minimum during the basketball season, especially like 2,000 3-pointers a day. Furthermore, even if they did show you a snippet of that jump shooting, like addition, like if they're showing you in the gym and showing you the practice, they're gonna show you the good clips. They're not gonna show you him missing 1,500 of them, or him, telling his family he can't go out with him to go shoot in the gym. They're not gonna show you like Jeff Bezos or some of these famous people when they lost it all and could have jumped out the window in stocks and didn't have no like solid assets, right? For them to get there. I just read something that said like it took 26 years for it wasn't Bezos, and it'll come back to me, Tesla guy, y'all know who I'm talking about. Anyway, it took him 26 years to make his first 160 billion, and 6 months to make the next 180 billion. Think about that. 26 years to make his first 160 billion. 6 months to, because I didn't even know about him like within the last 2 years, right? So it's just like, these are things that aren't highlighted, even on that film, that kind of stuck out to this story. So I want to talk about it today, and what really goes on, and that's why I switched up the title to The Thrill of Defeat and The Agony of Victory, man. We're going to get right into it. Now, with this idea of victory, first of all, it's completely subjective. I mean, realistically and logically, if we're setting our own goals and our own things that we want to accomplish, we should be the only one who judges, unless you're playing a competitive sport, literally, right? Or something where it's a competition with the numbers, literally, right? We Now, with this idea of victory, first of all, it's completely subjective. Unless you're playing something where the numbers are calculated or measured, or a competitive sport, the measures of victory or success are subjective to the person who and how they look at it. So if we're talking about individual goals and individual things that we have that we want to get done or accomplish, it really in most situations shouldn't be anybody other than ourselves who can determine whether we are victorious or whether we fail. Now, I'll use myself as an example because I always say this. A majority of the time, not all time, but a majority of the time, nobody's going to be able to be harder on themselves but me. Now, it's a healthy way to go about that because you don't want to seek perfection. You don't want to beat up on yourself, but it's just like you got to hold yourself to some type of standards, to some type of principle to get quality work done. Or if you want to achieve something that's above average, you absolutely have to do it. So, but victory is glamorous. Because it also celebrates the ending of something, right? See, people don't understand. Like we as humans look at things and we understand the logical level, but we don't always apply it, right? So victory celebrates more so than the prize that you get. It's a completion of something. Now, because it brings in a competitive factor, right? So, and that's why a lot of competitions start between individuals in situations where it shouldn't. We should just be competing with ourselves, is because sometimes that victory or that prize is not enough for us ourselves. We want everybody else to celebrate us, right? So let's piggyback off of that into the failures. Failures, even though it's not as glamorous, it's still, and it's only not as glamorous on the surface level. We're going to get to that. It's still signifying the completion of something. So before we get into this kind of idea, I have to tell people, like, and a lot of the things that I talk about and deal with in a lot of the, strategies, two things. Number one, they have a foundation in some type of religious belief, right? Or that you have some type of spiritual belief, because you have to have something in principles and morals and values to, kind of govern yourself after. But number two, is your mindset, right? You have to kind of have a refuse to lose mindset. And I tell my team all the time, like, when I'm talking about management or work, is it in you or is on you? And I think like it comes down to that first thing. What mindset do you have when you face something? You know what I mean? Now, there's multiple ways that people go about it and multiple different breakdowns of the mindsets that we can do. But at the end of the day, caveman tactics, right? Are you going to quit? Which is the easiest, by far the easiest thing to do. It's easy to quit, easy, relief, right? Or are you going to be determined to fight? And I know me particularly, I'm determined to fight. Now, we're going to talk about that next week's episode. You know what I'm saying? Your strongest weakness. But yeah, as Mamba breathes all heavy. That bone's good, right, guy? All right. So let's get into this because I'm gonna make this episode, you know what I mean, a little less verbose. All right. Let's get right into this idea, this mindset, and why we should be looking at it like this, and why most people who are successful are able to look at it like this wholeheartedly. And that way, when they run into things, they're able to, overcome it or know when to hold them or when to fold them, right? And there's no second guessing about it because they look at things like this. So we're going to tell you why we need to look at it like this. What are the why is it advantageous to understand that your defeats or your failures are actually your victories and vice versa. All right, let's get right into it. The first one. Okay. So Michael Jordan wrote a book, and I believe the book's entitled "I Can Accept Failure, but I Can't Accept Not Trying." And even in itself, that tells you a lot about like what it takes to be great and the things that the greatest have that others don't. Uh, the number one thing we need to do in order to like be able to overcome, because life is about failures, successes, victories, and defeats, right? The number one thing you can do to start gaining more victories and not take your defeat so hard or not give up when you get a defeat is be aware of your mindset. That's right. Be aware of your mindset. Notice I didn't say make sure you have a positive mindset or anything like that. Just be aware of it. And the reason is because our mindset determines a lot of the time what our capabilities are or what we're able to do, right? Typically humans, we have a very, 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 very high esteem about our abilities. I won't even say about looks or anything, but like our abilities. I'll give you an example. I use this all the time in management. I've never flipped a pancake up in a pan. It looks cool when I've seen it, but when people take a pancake and they cook it and they flip it up into the air and catch it in the thing perfectly and they flip it, looks cool, right? But typically, if I'm just like being mentally lazy and you ask me if I can do that, I'm gonna not only tell you I can do it, I'm gonna be confident of it, and then I'm gonna attempt it. Now, what's gonna happen when we're not good at anything, right? And let me pause. This is what people need to understand. The reason why we have to change the way that we look at defeat is because it can stop us from learning and getting information. I'm not gonna go too far because I'm gonna get into that in a second, but uh, we have to have the proper mindset in the first place so that we can understand that if it's something that we've never done before, right? And typically, defeat, the easiest thing to do is to run away from it, to just ignore it, to be mean to that person, right? To let it go, to say, hey, they ain't got nothing to do with me. So, because when we get to that wall and we hit it, we don't never go back to re examine it 9 times out of 10, right? We just let it go until it comes up again. We're never going to get better at it. We need to understand and have the proper mindset going into things, especially new ventures, and understand that before you succeed, you will fail multiple times. But if your mindset isn't right, when that failure occurs, it's going to be what you do with it, all right? Give you another example, video editing. As I'm recording this right now, we're medicine ball. We have to self-check. We're aware of our mental state, so forth and so on. I had to pause and stop and be like, bro, who you think you is? Oh, you just think you George Lucas, huh? Like, who did I think I was? I'm George Lucas, right? I'm about to just get the video camera equipment, get the programs, just pay the money for it, right? Because money can't solve some of this stuff, right? Unless you're on a certain level, we'll get to that. But just like, we have to be aware of a mindset, and within that comes a couple of things. Number one, do we have the abilities to overcome what we're trying to accomplish? Number two, what is our rate of success, right? What is our chances of success, our chance of victory? Be aware of your mindset when you go into any type of new venture. And furthermore, I'll give you a bonus point. You got 2 times to be aware of it. Number one, before you start it. Number two, if it's something you've never done before and you failed the first time, right? It will help you to get another shot at being like, hold on, let me change how I'm thinking about this situation, my abilities, and my mindset, all right? Number one, be aware of your mindset. Boom. Number two, and I'm going to make this go together, and this is something that I came up with myself, right? As I'm trying to practice looking at the camera more simultaneously. Number two, right? Give you something that goes together. Within that stressing is a lesson, and that's the blessing. That's right. Within that stressing is a lesson, and that's the blessing. So when it comes to victory, or us trying to be victorious at something and getting defeated, the first thing that helps us realize that the defeats or the failures aren't a bad thing, it could really be a good thing, is somewhere within that failure or defeat is some information. Let's just start base level, right? I'm not talking emotions. I'm not talking feeling better. I'm not talking, well, I'm just saying in there is some information. At the bare minimum, it's gonna be like, yo, you failed because of this, right? The money ran out because you didn't do budget this, or you paid this, right? You didn't win that race because you didn't do that. There's some information. There's some information in that. Now, here's the thing. Bonus points here with Medicine Bond. I'm using myself as an example, and I've spoken about this previously. You know what I mean? Y'all can go check one of the prior episodes to get more information about this. Mamba, come on, man. But I've spoken about this previously, like when it came to like doing music production, right? And really diving deep into it. I found out that things that I wasn't successful at, and just for the sake of time, I'll just, use speed when it comes to creating music. There's a tempo. So when I wasn't really understanding the tempo, so I wasn't able to make my drums and my hi-hats hit the way I wanted to, I remember the frustration of just not getting it and really having an understanding of the program and music theory, but not getting that. So eventually, and I'll just give you the story real quick. After me looking through so many videos and going online and hitting help forums and even going in the program and hitting help itself, it was not even the videos that gave me the information. It was one of them I was looking at, and I was just like, man, what BPM are these people in? And that's how I started noticing the speed the song was in when they're doing these tutorials or they're talking about hi-hat tricks, et cetera, et cetera. But the bonus point is I had spent so much time, because I'm still within the program, the music making program, when I'm looking at these tips and tricks. So you think if I don't go on there and they say, hey, this is how to EQ your treble, okay, I'm gonna take that to the side. Something about me is gonna write it down, take it to the side, but I'm still looking for something. Hey, by the way, this is how you can get your instruments to snap to the grid and your notes quantized. I'm gonna still write it down. So by the time I figured out the speed thing, without even getting the video, I had acquired so much information that I think at that time I literally cried. Like, it was a lot going on at that time. Like, I think I got a deposit from somebody for a beat. right? Which I think God was kind of like, here, there you go, you get it. You see why I took you through that stressing, and that was the blessing. Because by the time I figured that out, not only was I able to maneuver my drums, bro, I'm able to maneuver my drums, snap the grid, quantize notes, hi hat, abrogator, etc., etc., etc. Number one is important because if you don't have that mindset, you won't be able to get to number two.